The American West was not tamed overnight. It took hard work and dedication by people who did not know the meaning of the word quit. That American spirit is alive today in the hearts of men and women across this country who dedicate themselves to returning to the American homestead.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the American Homestead. Today it's a rainy day, so we decided to come in here into the greenhouse and work a little bit on our hydroponics. Today I'm going to show you a method, one of the first ones I learned, which is called the Kratky method. This is a completely self-contained hydroponic system using nothing more than one of these buckets you get at Walmart. I picked this one, and I highly recommend, if you're going to get them, make sure they have these attachments on the side that grip onto the top of the deal, because what's going to happen is as we fill it up with water, it'll expand out, and this kind of keeps it all held together. I would recommend a dark box, keep the sunlight out from the water, because you can get algae growth and some other issues there. This one's a 7.5 gallon bucket that we got. Basically, I'll run you through what we did. So we take this, we take the top, depending on the size of the bucket, I put in 2 holes. So I can grow 2 plants out of this one container. You can go to Amazon, you can go to your local Grow Supply, anywhere, and pick up these little basket cups. And inside is what we call rock wool. It's basically a fibrous material that we use as a placeholder for the plant. You're going to set it in, it's going to give it support, it's going to allow the roots to grow beneath it. It works in place of your normal soil. So this is what we start with. These are a couple cents a piece. You can buy a big box of them either on Amazon, or you can buy it at your local Grow Supply. Same with the rock wool. Even some of the more commonplace like Lowe's and stuff may have the rock wool and things like that. So all I did is I took a 2-inch hole saw, drilled 2 holes into this bucket. And that's it. Simple thing about this, and this is what got me started, because I was looking at online and I was seeing all the different ways to grow using hydroponics, and I realized I didn't know enough about it to run through all those. So I wanted to start very simple, and this is where I ended up starting with. So Kratky method. Basically what we're going to do today, I got a couple tomato plants that we're going to place into that. Now Kratky, to me, and this is all based on what I've done. There's 100 different ways to do things. I'm just going to tell you what worked for me, how it worked best, and what I did. Take it for what it's worth. Use it, don't use it. Find someone with a degree if you like. But this is what worked for me on our homestead. So, Kratky method is basically a very simple hydroponic system using nutrients that I use the FloraGrow from General Hydroponics. It's a 3-step system that you can put in. Now, when I'm using my bigger system over here, I will typically put in a little bit at a time, depending on where I'm at. So, we might start with the Grow, and we switch over to Bloom, and then we have the Micros. Each one has a different nutrient content that's going to help in that stage of development of your plant. So today, because we're using Kratky, this is a one-touch. We're going to fill it up with water, we're going to fill it up with our nutrients, and we're going to leave it. It's going to set, it's going to water the plant, it'll end up aerating. The plants themselves will actually create air suckers that will draw in air, but the whole system will be contained right here. We'll leave it typically in my greenhouse, but I got some small tomato plants I'm going to plant today. So I always start in soil. Not everyone does, and you don't have to. You can actually start from seed in one of these systems if you so choose, but to me it's easier to start in soil. I have a couple Roma tomato plants that I got from a friend of mine that they were started in soil. Typically you could just plug these right into the ground and get going. Now, the thing with tomato plants and hydroponics is you got to have a support system. I have wires over here in mine that I will actually set this in, and as they grow up, I will tie them to the wire so they grow up and have some additional support. So, when you're transferring from soil into hydroponics, you want to make sure and get rid of all the organics from the plant itself. So we're going to break this apart. We're going to get down to the root system. As you can see, there's a lot of dirt in here, and we're just going to do our best to get most of it off of here. And just very gently, you got to be careful not to destroy your root system. Now these are kind of weak because I left them in here and we got a hot day and I wasn't able to give them enough water. So, but they'll perk right back up, and I'm just going to rinse these off. We're going to get right down to the root. And we might have a little bit of soil left on there, which is not a big deal. But you want to try to eliminate that as much as possible, because organics into a nutrient system can cause some problems. You don't never know what kind of soil you get, especially where you're getting it from. So we're down to pretty much the roots here. I don't know if you can see this. I'll bring it up to the camera a little bit. So as you can see, we have the roots. Now what's going to happen, we're going to take this 2-inch pot. You can get bigger ones, you can get, I don't know if you can get smaller, but you can get bigger. And I always tear mine into 2 pieces, because what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that these roots have the opportunity to get down to the bottom, and what they'll do is they'll feed their way in through these holes in the basket. So, but we need the structure around it to support it. So I'm going to take my rock wool that I tore in half, and yes, I'm reusing the same rock wool that I had previously. As long as it's clean, as long as you know where it's been kept, it should be fine. But it's cheap, you can get more. And I'm simply going to place the plant in like that. You can see I have roots coming out from below, so they're going to grab the water. We have support for the plant on the base. So I'm going to set that over here for right now. We'll take our next one. We're going to pull this apart. Take apart your rock wool, split into 2 pieces. You can split into 4 depending on what you're dealing with. And we're going to take our next plant out. Now this one seems to have 2 plants in one. And that sometimes happens when you're planting from seed. If you plant a couple seeds, occasionally both of them germinate. We'll see if it came down into 1 plant or it is physically 2. Now I don't want to tear these apart because I don't want to ruin the plant. So we'll take it and rinse it off. Try to get all the soil, vermiculite, everything that's kind of gone into the plant, into the soil base. And they're pretty much tangled together, so I'm going to go ahead and let them stay together and grow together. So we take our pot, shake it out. We're going to gently place our plant in there, making sure the roots have access to the bottom. Try to get it out as much as possible so they already have a good start. And then basically just take our rock wool, set it on one side, and take the other half, press it down firmly, but don't squish them, but you want it firm so they have a good firm support base. So now I have both of those in. So what are we going to do with the hydroponic system itself? Well, first we got to add nutrients, we got to add water, and we want to make sure and fill it up completely. Knowing that I have 7.5 gallons, knowing I'm going to keep this system closed, we're going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and put all the nutrients it needs for the lifetime. Now, Kratky to me, and everyone's a little bit different, but Kratky to me is perfect for harvesting plants. Because what's going to happen is you don't want to have to keep adding water to it, because once you open it, you're introducing different things into the environment that doesn't necessarily need to be there. So I like to have a harvestable plant. I'll do lettuce in it. Romaine does amazing in it. I get huge romaine. Tomatoes have done well in it, but it's a harvest type. So basically what's going to happen is as the water draws down, it's going to open up air pockets. The top of the root system of the plant, those top roots will become air suckers. So they'll actually start taking in air. The bottoms will continue to take in water. And with this system, everything's self-contained. You don't have to worry about the algae or anything like that. But you want to make sure it's loaded up with the nutrients the plants need through all stages. And we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we're going to add the nutrients into the system. Like I said, I use FloraGrow. We have the 216, we have the Flora Bloom, and we have the Flora Micros. So each one of these has on the back a description, forgive my dirty hands, of how many teaspoons per gallon. So if you're looking for aggressive growth, you're at 3, general purpose 1, and you can change it throughout. Now typically this is used for one of the other systems where you're controlling the nutrients at the right time to make sure that you're getting everything in at the right time that the plant needs it. But since this is a closed system, we can put them in at the same time. A lot of people may not recommend it. This is what I've done for years past and it's worked every time. So whatever, you know, I'm going to go ahead and put in, this is a brand new set, so I'm going to go ahead and put in my amounts of what I use for it. So I'm going to start with the FloraGrow. I like a fairly aggressive growth, but I'm going to go with mild this time. So 1 per gallon, so that's going to be a total of 7 of these. Now, I would recommend putting it in before you fill it with water, because what's going to happen is the water is going to actually mix it for you. Alright, so now we have the Flora Bloom. So for this one, I'm also going to do 1 per gallon, 1 teaspoon. Now, granted, this cap lid here is not necessarily exactly a teaspoon, and I kind of do it like I do cooking. Alright, so we got 7. And then I have the micros. Give it a good shake before we start, kind of get it mixed up. So the micros, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 7 and 7. Because we know we're going to have 7 gallons of water, roughly. And if I can get my fingers to work here. Okay, don't do that. Shouldn't have done that. That's alright. It's micros, microorganism, or the foundation for a nutrient system. It's a still a good product. It has a lot of your nitrogen, your potash, your calcium, your boron, cobalt, and so on. It looks like blood. Assure you I didn't cut myself yet today. Try to make sure you get it in there accurately rather than me, who has a tendency to dump things. So, anyways, we have our nutrients into the Kratky system. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get water and we're going to fill it up. Alright, so I went ahead and placed the bucket where I needed it to be, where I'm going to set it up for growing. Now the key here, we're going to start adding our water. And while you're adding it in, you're actually mixing the nutrients that are inside. And we're going to let that fill up. Now the key here is when we place our lid back on, that the bottom of the water must touch the bottom of the cup. We don't want too much water where it's flooding it, but we want enough so that the bottom of the cup is actually touching the water itself. The reason I go ahead and place it on the ground is because once it's filled with water, it gets a little heavier. It's easier to go ahead and place it and fill it where it's at, and to really do the whole process where you want to set it. So I'm setting it fairly close to my plastic here. I have my support system here that will bring down and tie up as we need to tie up. Okay, so here we are. We got the water filled up. Now we're just going to take the lid, place it on top. We're going to take our cup, make sure it has some of the roots extruding from the bottom. They'll naturally grow down into the water. We're going to set it in. Just make sure if it's dripping, it's touching water. So we're good to go there. So we're going to take that one. Take our next one. If you need to at this point, if you notice this was not touching, use your open hole to fill the other one. That way you don't have to take it back off again. We're going to drop that one in. Lift it up. We got water dripping. We know we're touching. And that's it. Seal up your system and let the sun shine and let your tomatoes grow. So I found that Kratky is one of the easiest methods for starting in hydroponics. Like I said, there's 100 different ways you can see it, you can learn to do it, there's different options, and there's different people tell you different things. I'm just going to tell you what worked for us here on the American Homestead. I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you like the content, if you want to see more, hit the like and share button, and make sure you subscribe to our channel so you learn more as we learn. So thanks again from the American Homestead, and we'll see you next time.